Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the episode. You can follow me on social media at Galen Trombley. I hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Please hold for a very important message. Light speed sequence initiated. How may I help you?
Bonjour.
Security breach.
The truth shall set you free. Awesome. It's a miracle.
Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Mission complete.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Episode 214, Galen Trombley Show, here with Paul Deyoe, returning guest. You might have the... I'm trying to think because I feel like you have the record currently for the longest distance between repeated guests on the show, because you came on like episode... I don't even know if this book goes back. So I put everybody's name, or I say name. Like I use this book and it only goes back to episode way long ago, 115.
Yeah, they were putting the 10 Commandments on a tablet back when you started recording things that way when I was here.
Most likely. But I want to feel like you were episode like 20 something or 30 something.
Wow.
And now we're at 214. So you were the longest returning guest. So that's almost 3 years ago, Paul, that you were probably on the podcast.
But I'm back, and that's what matters. We're here today.
And we got a new improved Paul Deyoe. We had and give us a quick recap. Who was Paul Deyoe back then? Where's Paul Deyoe now? And then we'll dive into all the fun stuff.
Wow. Okay, that was a doozy of a question, but I guess let's go back. We go back 3 years ago. Things are a little different.
Can I also say first? I always have people when we come on. This is gonna be a fun podcast because I know Paul pretty well. That this is like we're gonna get some recaps and dive into stuff. It'll be fun. You're the first person that went and did like the mic check before, and it was perfect, and it sounded like you should have been on the air. Have you ever tried doing any kind of radio podcasting or anything like that?
I have been told that a voice for radio that we could do someday. So, hello, everybody. This is Paul Deyoe. We're on WPLA Radio, talking today with Galen Trombley. One of the things we're going to discuss coming up is the changes over the last 3 years and where we're headed in this direction.
So
someday
you're gonna do my voice. You're gonna do my intro at some point. When I did a new intro, which was like me just kind of messing around. I'll get a proper intro of Paul Deyoe's voice. Paul,
live from downtown Plattsburgh. It's the Galen Trombley Show, broadcasting live. I gotta get my script down. And
we'll dive into where we're gonna do the next version of Paul. But Paul, tell us where you were back then, where you are now.
3 years ago, I was working in sales for broadcast television, local sales manager, NBC5. Loved that job and a career. It was a lot of fun. I've always been kind of in advertising and then in the media sales. I love being a marketing consultant for people, trying to find out what a business is accomplishing and how we can help them achieve those goals. This past year has been a little different quickly. I've gone through a divorce, which is all good. My ex-wife and I still get along great, and we're very amicable. I've heard it's the best, most amicable divorce of all time. So that's pretty awesome. We think it works out well for both of us. I've also started, new careers. I've left the television advertising sales industry. I now work for Strictly Business magazine. We're doing a few different things there. In addition to selling ads, I'm the Business Advocacy Representative. So we're involved in writing some articles in a magazine, reaching out with businesses, find other ways that we could help them. How can we tell their stories? And I was showing you earlier, we're kind of starting our own advertising agency, if you will. So we're helping customers we already have a graphic designer and department, business planning. We can do that. Yeah, take the magazine and the brand to the next level.
I want to go over this stuff some more. So Strictly Business Advocacy Rep, and then what else?
Then I started my own company. So since I was 8 years old, my family's owned a plumbing and heating business in Anco Heating out of Osceola Forks. And I've kind of gotten back to my roots in a way too. Started my own electrical, plumbing, HVAC business called Phaze Services. I'm having a lot of fun with that. It's been great to just be out working with my hands now. And I feel that's a change my career needed. I loved what I did before and getting trips to New York City to meet with advertising agencies. But I love this local hands-on approach now and being a contractor.
This is pretty cool. You guys did a whole okay. Phaze, I'm reading his first off, you got a bio here. You're hiking up a mountain. I don't know if you're coming down, going up, or if this is like, what angle is that, Paul? Are you climbing up a mountain?
I'm climbing up a mountain, man.
Looks like you're doing like a bear crawl, but It almost looks like a rock climbing thing with no ropes, like one of those Free Solo. You see the Free Solo movie?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, right? But that ain't.
I know it's definitely not you. I look at you and I look at Alex Honnold. It's definitely different guy, but this looks pretty cool, Paul.
Right, man.
Okay, so marketing specialist, solution specialist, strictly business. I did not realize this. Fun fact: median age is 43.5. 60% is 18 to 64. That's a big. We almost gotta like lower that, like 18 to, you know what I mean, like 18 to 30, like 30 to 50 or something like that, or 50 plus.
To get a.
Oh, you see what? No, like look at that right there. Like 18 to 65 readership. That's like a big gap.
No, they're talking about the demographics of the county there.
Oh, this isn't like of the magazine itself.
This part's the magazine. This part's of the area, Clinton County.
Oh, gotcha. So digital advertising. Oh, this is cool. I like looking at statistics like this. So Facebook and Instagram.
The same company. You blended it nicely.
Readers per issue. So this is per issue? That's wild. Right here.
10,000 readers per issue, yeah. It's based on, the amount we serve. We direct mail it to business people across the community. Mm-hmm. Is left on different offices around the table, doctor's office, etc. So that's our guesstimate we came up with about who's between the subscriptions, the people that get it, and
digital's what? That just like from email count, all just basically like digital, I'm guessing obviously social media reach, but this I'm assuming mailing lists, anything you guys are
right,
sending.
that's people reading the articles on our website, that one. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
The social media is separate on there, and we're trying to, as you can imagine, grow more with those.
So let's talk about strictly business quickly. So this, I find as I've gotten older, there's like magazines aren't as popular overall. What I will say though is strictly business is like the magazine I look forward to getting. As a kid, it was like, Sports Illustrated, Golf Digest. There was like Sporting News. There's a few magazines I look forward to as a kid getting. As I got older, kind of fell out of those kind of magazines. And you get like Time Magazine. I read that for a bit, like when in college. And as I've gotten older, I've read like zero magazines. Strictly Business is literally the only magazine I get. Partly because it's so localized to where we are. But on the same token, there's good content in every magazine. And a lot of my guests that I get for the podcast, like Strictly Business, is a way for me to like expand my knowledge of people in the area. And then I read articles or I kind of check it out. I'm like, that person seems interesting. Read a little bit more about them, invite them on, or ask a couple people about the person, and then eventually come on. So like the guy in the cover, I have no clue who that is, but it's something that I would like, from Michelin. Like I would read the article, and if it sounds like a cool dude and someone that looks like he'd be interesting to talk to or have interest, I'd invite him on. So I've used this as like a great resource.
I don't have cash to slip you for all that little PR you gave me there, but I thank you for it. Yeah, I promise this isn't sponsored.
No, it's not sponsored, but I actually do love this magazine. It's
as well.
It's the one that I read every single month. So, and again, you flip through it, but you really start to get a little bit more, I don't know. I guess I get a lot of good knowledge from it, but the other thing too is for people that don't understand the region, and again, Strictly Business is more on the business side. The amount of businesses and little like nooks and crannies in the area that people don't even know about, and people in the business space don't know about. Like if I read some of these articles, I'm like, I've never even heard of that company, and you start diving into a little bit more to them, like, oh, that's what that warehouse is, or that's what that little shop is on that side street, and you start to understand the people behind it, and it's just there's a lot of cool things going on. So that's that. Again, I really love this book magazine, but yeah, I mean, good Lord, Paul, look at this. You're like, is this just because you're the marketing guy?
Sure. I mean, the media kit was there. I kind of changed it. That's all new. So that's all the new direction we're taking the brand. Strictly Business, sure. The magazine's very popular. It's a staple in this community, as you know. But what do we do at the end of the day? Our brand tells the story of business people in this area. Our stories of what people want to hear about. What are the small shops doing? It's more than just a print magazine. People get their news differently these days. It's using social media more. It's helping businesses. That's why I'm a Business Advocacy Representative. When the Northeast group came to me to work for them, it was, how can we do more ways to help people? Is it putting a business plan together? Helping them with social media, search engine optimization, all these things that play into having a business grow and helping this area.
Well, the other thing when I look at because we've kind of had this discussion before, like what market, like I like marketing too. And it's like, what marketing is good marketing? I think marketing at the end of the day is wherever eyeballs are, but it's also your ROI on whatever you're doing. Like if you're doing something and the ROI is great, and let's say let's say the ROI on something, I'm just going to use like easy numbers. I'm doing the math off the top of my head, so this math might be, you'll get the gist. Like if I paid $1 and I made, 100 impressions per dollar. Now, if I spent $5 and made, 10,000 impressions, so you go back and forth. Like this one's cheaper, but it's 1 to 100 versus 1 to 200 or 1 to 2,000 in that example. So then my mindset would go, even though it's more expensive, the ROI per dollar spent is better. Now, my mind also goes, if those 100 people are better target market or clients or the people that I want to be in front of or want to associate with, even though it's not as good of an ROI, it's a better, what's that called, subject group than the 2,000, where maybe the conversion on that 2,000 is slightly more, but they're maybe not as good of clients. And then you can really kind of play that all the way down. So my mindset is like whatever works. Like to me, Strictly Business, like the magazine, this magazine works because of the people that it's getting in front of. And obviously going into like the digital space, there's some magazines, if people were doing magazines, it's just not that popular. And not that it's a bad magazine. It's just the interest rate not interest rate, not bank interest rate, but interest, the rate of interest of a person in that, whatever that median is. So like my thing is like this magazine, I don't read a lot of magazines. It's hard to like find time to read and skim through. But this is a magazine that I find the value in that. Even if I can't have time to read it, I will flip through it and make notes of the articles I do want to read and come back to them. And I might not go cover to cover, but I might hit 1 or 2 articles. There might be 7 articles in there. I might hit 1 or 2, and then some months I might hit 5, 6, 7 of them. Sometimes I'll skip it if I'm like, I either know that, that, or I'm not interested as much. But I find marketing is wherever the ROI eyeballs are attention-wise, and then how does it translate to your actual business. So to me, like anything with marketing makes sense depending just how you use it and who you're getting in front of.
And advertising is one small piece, right? It really,
Yes.
What are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to reach? Right? The product, place, promotion, price, the 4 Ps. And it might be a little bit outdated, but it really holds true that the promotion is one piece. So what are you trying to accomplish? Where's your best opportunity to grow?
Your market, you graduated marketing, right?
Yeah, I've got an MBA from Empire State College.
So good question for you. So you have the advertising, you have branding, you have like direct response, you have I'm trying to think of some other ones that would jump out, but
Billboards,
But like to me, billboard depends what you're doing. Like direct response is like a call to action, but there's also image advertising, there's branding advertising, there's when I got started, the marketing that we did years ago that my dad was kind of really dove into back when it was kind of an up and coming thing, was like direct response marketing, using like technology to lead capture and allowing you to bring that information in. And we still have that. We have it on Zillow, and you have it on our websites and some stuff like that. And the idea of bringing that information in is that we can capture a name, we can capture a number, email, whatever it might be, contact information. But that when it comes to us, it's not necessarily. The conversion could be trickier. It's kind of like we call it like they raise their hand, we're interested. I filled out whatever your sheet is. Mm-hmm. I get Paul Deyoe. I have no clue who Paul Deyoe is. That conversion is more difficult than the Paul Deyoe that I know that comes to me and says, hey, Galen, I want you to help me out with X, Y, and Z. And so the two forms of it, I find the branding aspect of it, which is, image, social media, the meet and greet, like all that kind of stuff, builds up the builds up the branding, the image, which I find things are going more towards personally. Now, this could be my business, and other businesses might be still direct response, but I find that the image idea of it takes a longer time to build up. But it's like a flywheel. Once you get that going, it can have massive returns, but you put in a lot of work up front with a longer let's call it a maturity level till you get to that point where everything's like rolling. Where direct response, you can get stuff in quicker, and it's kind of like that short term, like get me the short term success. But in order to maintain that, I'm going to be doing that for, let's just say a timeline. I'm going to see success quicker, but that level of effort is going to be longer, I guess, because you're going to have to keep working at that level to keep there. Where image and branding and stuff, I find you put a lot of upfront work, not a lot of payoff, but then all of a sudden you get kind of like a hockey stick rate of return, and then you don't have to work as hard because you put in more work up front and we're kind of more patient for the long-term success or the long-term benefit or gain. And then it's kind of like a delayed satisfaction. You delay it, eventually you hit and it kind of pops, and then you realize like, okay, I made it over the hump, and now I don't have to grind as much on the start, and then it's the flywheel effect, where I find direct response marketing, because you're getting people that aren't necessarily really warm leads or hot leads or whatever. I would say they're kind of cool leads. They're not cold calling, but they're just, if we're going temperature, a little bit warmer than cold calling. But you get those, but that takes a lot of effort over a long period of time to maintain that, because those people, unless you convert them and really like keep marketing to them to kind of build that relationship, to me, it's a lot of effort to just keep doing that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a sustained effort with like some marginal gains, where the other one is a lot of effort, not as much payoff, but eventually it trickles or goes, you have that hockey stick kind of loops up really quick, and then you have the benefit from it. Do you find, that's my experience. Do you follow that? Do you agree, disagree?
I agree. I mean, that's a marketing funnel, right? So the top is just branding and awareness, people to know of you. That takes time, especially if someone's not in the market for it right away. If you're doing that branding and awareness, as you get lower in that funnel, I'm ready to make a purchase of that car now, that direct response can work far better. When I see that ad to click here to take that offer of leasing an F-150 for $199 a month, I'm familiar with the Ford brand. I'm familiar with this Ford dealership I'm considering. Now I'm going to click through to take action. Whereas if the branding wasn't there, I'm maybe less likely to do that click.
So I guess the way we used to do it, we had there was branded and non-branded. So there was branded, meaning like, this is our company branding out a message, so people knew who it was coming from. Then we would run stuff where we did not brand it to us, but it was still coming to us. So people were responding to that not because of us or our business. They were responding because of the offer, whatever the value was of that ad, and then it would come to us. So it kind of, like I said, they weren't the highest quality leads, but you could get a substantial amount of leads. Like there was a thing I paid for years ago, probably 8-9 years ago at this point, and I was spending, let's say I think it was like $500. I was spending like $500 a month on this service, and I was pumped my first, let's say, month. I started tracking. I probably still have it somewhere in my on my spreadsheets, but like the first week I had 30 leads on this site, and then the next week I had like 40, and the next week I had like maybe 28, and then one week I had almost 50. And this was in a week. So if I'm spending $500 and I'm getting like, let's say 150 leads coming in a month, about a month, that's a massive amount of leads for $500. Now, there was two issues with that. Number one, I had no way to filter those leads, meaning I had to individually contact those people. So if you think about, I'm getting, let's ballpark it during the workday, maybe like Monday through Friday, I'm getting somewhere between 7 and, I'm probably getting somewhere between 6, 7, 8 leads a day, Monday through Friday. Then all of a sudden, like when, you're trying to call them multiple days, then it just got to the point where it was like, okay, I got 100 people now to call. So the issue was I wasn't able to filter out that initial list because a lot of the leads were no good. They responded to it, but they weren't great at converting. So when I got the number, someone could look at that and say, hey, the ROI, like you spent X amount of money and made this, and that's insane, which I would agree. But when your conversion is poor and it's taking you a long time to convert those people, that's also not a great, I looked at, eventually I dropped it. Like it was kind of one where at the end of the day, like I made a little bit of, I made money off of it. So the ROI was there. The problem was just the timing that it took just was not significant. Now, granted, this was 7-8 years ago. Technology wasn't as strong as it is now. I wasn't as attuned to what I was doing back then. Now, if I was to do it again, I would figure out some type of, with the landing page, something to kind of almost like pre-screen the lead. So instead of getting 50, if I could get that down to like 10 to 15, but I knew those 10 to 15 were like, they've gone through a couple hoops and they've kind of, almost like disqualified themselves on their own, then I know maybe the 10 that I'm actually dealing with are good, and I can scrap the other 40, and it just saves me a lot of time because they weren't serious at the end of the day. And then it comes down to like what's your skill level at being able to convert people, and handle objections and stuff. So marketing's fascinating to me, but there's so much to it. But it's like the evolution of how things are marketing, and now you have like, what do you find is the biggest change in marketing from when you started, or what do you find right now is like something you have your eye on in the marketing world?
I guess for me, when I started, thinking in my earliest days, working with Gregory Supply and working with the owners and kind of helping them with their marketing, even then digital was a thing, right? What companies were getting websites. There was certainly social media starts in the late early 2000s, right? It doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying? 2006 or 2008 really starts to pick up. You've seen that growth, right? Social media, the way that people consume video and what eyeballs are doing. There's so many different ways digitally. Television is still a wonderful way to reach people. There's still local news reaches more people really than any other mediums, and they're trusted more. But if you look at social media overall, there's so much more targeting capabilities. So maybe if you're looking to broadcast a huge net, sure, some traditional things would make sense. With targeting though, with the digital products, there's so many more things you can do. Look at certain things like YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube at night for my television.
Yeah,
or
same.
Hulu and the other types of Sling TV that are out there. The targeting's unbelievable. You want just households that have an income over $100,000 in Clinton County? Done. That automatically filters out some of those others. The leads are better. Your cost per thousand's higher, but it's more who you're trying to reach.
So do you find, like I've always come with the idea that, if I could be everywhere, I would be everywhere.
Sure.
Like that's the goal. But then you look at companies like, let's take some big name companies, Apple, Tesla. Let's take like Tesla. It's the highest, what's the word? It's the most valuable. It was, so if this is wrong, someone fact check me, but it was, the last time I checked, was the most valuable car company in the world, does no advertising. So when you look at something like that, like they put all their money into R&D and things, so they've made like a product so good that they don't really have to advertise, but they get people so much like word of mouth, which
that's advertising.
Which is, yes, and I would say
nothing's better than it, by the way.
Correct, and I would say that the holy grail for a company is to get to the point where you can completely slash your marketing budget to next to nothing, because you just have word of mouth and repeat, and everybody just comes to you because of your product, service, whatever that might be. It honestly takes a lot of like trial, error, improvement, R&D to get that product or service up to that level. But there's certain places, like if you have a certain restaurant or you have a certain, service provider. Like I know we were kind of, joking when you were doing some work around here and you were mudding. And we both talked about, Bud Wynn being the master mudder. Like, but I've heard that from many, many, many people. Mm-hmm. So Bud's not going around advertising. And Bud's a great guy. He's not going around advertising about how his mudding is. He just has a bunch of salespeople out there basically repping him, and he's getting, he's probably got more business than he can handle. That to me is like the highest level of achievement in the marketing for a company in the marketing space. It's tough to do it. Very rarely do companies actually do it, and then you have companies that are very well known and they pump millions and millions and millions behind advertising. Like you said, cars or, whether it's soda or beer, that's basically take any company that does Super Bowl advertising. Like major companies that are pumping so much money into advertising. But then I always find it fascinating when you get like Apple, who like has done advertising. You see some advertising, but not a whole lot of it. And like Tesla, you don't see any advertising. And I'm sure there's other companies, if you really like looked at it, like I don't think I ever really see advertising for those people or for those companies. What are your thoughts on that? Is because you think it's just the word of mouth? Because that's the best way to market.
With these large companies and why they're spending it?
Or no, not why, but like the ones that don't spend, which is like counterintuitive to what most businesses think.
So if you're taking a look, Bud Wynn's a good example, right? He's someone who's probably not looking to grow. He has enough business coming at him where his word of mouth is the advertising. That's all he needs. He's grown his brand to that point through his reputation and his work. If your business is still looking to grow, and that's why you'll see Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc. It's always funny, those major brands that are, Facebook's one of the biggest digital platforms and ways to reach people. They still use television, YouTube, etc. to reach viewers to grow more.
Like I guess when it comes down to like the hard part in our business, when I started, I think I just got like something for my Facebook page that I hit my 10-year anniversary of a Facebook page. Which you think about, like 10 years for a Facebook business page, that doesn't happen a lot right now because most businesses weren't really advertising on business pages back in like, you know, I might have started, it was 10 years. It would have been 2000. I think it was March of 2012 was when I started my business page. So I hit like my 10-year anniversary. So I remember at that point, nobody had a business page. Like in at least in real estate, there was nobody that had a business page. And I remember signing up for it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And, you know, you kind of plug away. And my first posts were awful. Like, they were just generic and crappy and, like, what you shouldn't be doing. And then I grew it and grew it and grew it. And I remember, like, having, like, under 100 people, like, liking the page. And then I remember seeing, like, if I had 5 people that liked a post, that was a big deal. Like, usually I had, like, nobody or one. And now, I haven't really put a lot of effort in the last, like, couple years on it. But I'm, like, in the 2000s and I look at that for like a local real estate person up in upstate New York. That's a lot of people for those kind of pages. I kind of joke like, if you look at like Becky from High Peaks Brew, she's probably got like 3,000 followers, and she's great, love her business, and she's a great person. But she's also the only mobile coffee bar in the area. So then people kind of look at like that as like everybody likes that because it's the only option. It's like contractors, like, or, you know, realtors. There's like 150 realtors. So like there's 80,000 people and like, you know, how many of those are kids? So really like how many people actually own homes or in that market? Then you kind of like spread it out across everything. And it's really averaging, you know, a low amount per agent if you average everything out. So that's why I always look at like where you're at relative to how saturated your market is. But like back then with the Facebook, like it was like the wild west when I started because there was nothing there. There was no laws and regulations in the real estate industry. So we kind of joked, like you just said, like someone that makes $100,000 in Clinton County. I used to be able to run so many things for people back in the day, and that was so targeted to what I want. And then like in our industry, then they started coming up with like, you know, the fair housing and you know, it's basically fair housing, but you know, you can't discriminate against people. And unfortunately, you know, that's something that basically hit all the social media platforms. So anything that we could target then went out the window. In my argument, this is a quick rant, Paul, was that like, so Facebook and social media, they targeted that and said, you can't, you know, you can't run ads based on an area or based on an income level or based on a age level or anything like that, because it's not, you know, you're discriminating against people. And my argument is if I'm running an ad for whatever the ad is, like if I'm running an ad for first-time home buyers and I know that majority of my first-time home buyers, let's say they're under the age of 30, but Facebook is telling me that someone at the age of 65 needs to see that ad. And I'm not, they could be a first-time home buyer, totally fine. But I'm also looking at it from the idea of like, where's my biggest bang for my buck kind of thing. If I'm talking about like empty nesters, well, nobody under 30 is an empty nester. You know what I mean? Like biologically, you can't have a kid and have them move out before that, you know? So it's like, so my target would probably be 40 and to 65, you know, and that's, but we couldn't do it. And the thing that always, you know, I never understood was, but if I was to advertise in, say, the Press Republican, is that fair that I can, you know, advertise in the Press Republican, but it only goes to certain zip codes, meaning, you know, it might be a couple counties, but that's limited. So like someone out maybe in Albany is not going to see my ad in the paper because it's only going to, you know, let's say 3 counties.
No, Facebook wouldn't do that either, right? You would just pick your counties in Facebook. No,
the best you could do is set a pin, and I don't even know if that's still there. Like if I wanted to run an ad, I used to run the ads on. I had a couple really good ones where I really like targeted certain areas. So I would run ads specifically at people like in Beekman Town, or specifically on people in Cumberland Head, or specifically at like different people that I could really tailor down because Facebook allowed you. And I remember it used to go from like 200 million. Okay, now you're down to 100,000. Okay, now you're down to 50,000. And you could keep shrinking it to what you wanted for your demographic. So if I wanted this ad to really hit, a group of like, say, 2,000 people, but I wanted to make sure it was in front of just those 2,000 people or multiple times in front of those 2,000 people, I wanted to do that versus spending the same amount and having it go out to, 50,000 people because I had to include, now a 20-mile radius of what I really was trying to target. Like if I was trying to target a community, it wouldn't let me like target that community anymore. It would say, well, no, if you're going to run it, now you got to run it to the next 30 miles out. So I'm like, why would I want to spend, if you're in Plattsburgh, well, there's half mine is in, say half, 40% to 50% is now Montreal or Canada and Vermont, which I can't sell in. So we always run into those problems. So I never understood how that would translate to like whether you run it in the paper or whether you run it in other media or mediums, but they were, they didn't have the restrictions because social media came out and then they started pinning it on social media. So that like I had to make adjustments and it hasn't gotten as good as what it was, 6, 7, 8 years ago before they switched it. And I'm all about the fair housing, but I find that there's certain things like fair housing to me is like if someone calls on a lead or calls on a house, like I have to treat them fairly. But I find if I'm running advertising, I just don't like advertising to me has nothing against discriminating against people, especially if I'm not using any discriminatory like lingo, like, you can't have this like, you can't have like this, let's say race come, or I'm only showing it to, males and not females. Like you would never run those ads, and that I could see. But if I was just like, hey, I just want to run it, target these zip codes where it's actually where my message is best put, that would make, to me, that shouldn't be classified as like discriminating against someone that lives in this zip code, 2 towns away, because the ad I'm running is irrelevant to that zip code. This has nothing really to do with you. This is just a rant on my part. But
I'm going to listen, man.
But
you got free beer, I'm listening to you. This is great.
Because this is like the marketing aspect when you talk about target marketing and really diving in with, because this is what I'm getting at, is that's one of the flaws that I found in certain marketing is like in my business, because there's more regulations. You going in like as a contractor and running those ads probably have free reign to do whatever you want because it's not as regulated. Like I have friends that are in finance and they're so regulated, they have to have everything they post approved before they can even post it. So it's sometimes it could be more the industry, but like that's one of the things in my industry that's very difficult is that they keep kind of adding more rules and regulations, which then makes that's why there's certain things I stopped running a lot of Facebook ads and stopped running those things because of I wasn't able to really target and hit what I wanted to hit, and I had to kind of think outside the box and work around that, which I was able to do, but that was a massive, like I say, advantage. It was at the time because nobody was doing it, and I was probably the only person or only one of maybe like a handful that actually was doing it regularly or successfully. So then you kind of took that away, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm the same as everybody else running ads that really aren't that great. That don't hit. Yes,
and I think that's a bigger problem in the extreme growth of targeting capabilities. You look at the healthcare industry; it's a similar thing that they know, but the things you're searching of, everything on that cell phone, everything you're doing, the hospitals you're going to, they track all that. So, I know that Paul Deyoe searched for XYZ health thing. He went to these doctors. He probably most likely has X disease or X situation he's got to deal with. They're then going to target me with extremely targeted ads that are like, oh my God, I was pulling up my phone. This is exactly what I have. You get into privacy concerns at that point that it's so.
Well, it's like so what do you think about the ad? Like if you and I right now, and we'll see maybe before we're gone, I start talking, I don't know if these ads exist, but let's, okay, perfect example, Yeti. I got a Yeti sitting here. I haven't looked to buy a Yeti. I haven't done anything. I don't think I've ever even been on the Yeti website to look at getting a Yeti. Chances are, like my phone today, if I go on, like let's say Instagram later today, I will have a Yeti ad that pops up, and it's not as bad. Like if I was to go to Yeti and search on Yeti and like look at buying a product on Yeti, then I could see myself being retargeted like almost like within minutes on another platform, because it's all synced up based on your your email or whatever you're logging in, which is fine. I understand that totally, the retargeting. But the aspect of just speaking and never going on the website, never looking it up, just talking about it, and then all of a sudden it's on your phone. So it's kind of the one, like, which obviously has to do with your phone, like what information is going into your phone, even though you're not actively putting that in. And I think that's where people look at the privacy aspect of, like, we're having a conversation and we're not actually, like, we don't have our phones out, computer out, looking this stuff up. But if I start getting ads for Yeti based on like my phone or whatever picking up what I'm saying, and I get retargeted that's a little sketchy, because it's not the act that I'm getting an ad for Yeti, could care less. It's just the act of, okay, how is that being performed? Who's listening in? And that's where you start getting the people that freak out about that.
And I think if you asked Apple, Google, etc., they're going to say they don't do that. Sure, the phone's always listening, but that's only for the commands that you're going to give it through. Hey Siri, here Google.
Yep.
Is it happening? I've seen instances where I'm myself going, man, I just said that out loud. Now I'm seeing an ad. I don't know that really is a thing. It's just that.
Well, it's also like, remember back in the day, like two things you like would never give out back in the day was your social security number and your credit card number. Like, and people still to this day like wouldn't give that out to you. Now, granted, and most people just don't go give their social security number out to everybody, but how many places now are like, give me the last 4 digits of your social security number as a way to, and that's common, I think, now. But it's also common, it's like, people have gone from, I don't want to put my credit card into my computer to purchase something online, to me, now I'm like, I don't even want to, like, I just want to have it Face ID, so when I go on, it just automatically pays for me, so I don't have to pull my credit card out. Like, we've gone to the point, huh?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, like, we've gone to the point, like, I'm not giving anybody my credit card, to the point where now I'm like, I'm going to give you everything, because I just don't want to pull out my credit card and punch in the numbers. Like, I'll let you save it. I'll have to give you access to it. And that's why I always find, like, scammers and things like that. We have so much, like, I have so much online just through normal consumption, being a human, ordering stuff online or just filling out, whatever registration things online, that everything can be stolen because it's already on there. So, like, the people that, refuse to give that out and think, I'm like, there's so much, all your stuff is out there so much already, that if someone truly wanted to get your information, they would. And I think this could go all the way to the President of the United States or whoever. Like, you probably can get that person's information if you were handy enough with hacking to get that stuff. You see it all the time. I mean, you see like companies get hacked. You see servers get hacked. You see, and then it kind of comes out to like the security aspect of everything. But I don't know. I'm always under the, idea that like they're going to get it if they want to get it. So I'm not paranoid on that.
I guess you're right. It's exactly. And like credit card thing, I feel like I've been hacked before, and they, Discover Card just refunds it back. I'm like, dude, if that's the only risk, I'll take that with the convenience of just.
But isn't it funny how like that used to not be the case, and now it is the case? Like now you wouldn't even think about it. Like things that you would think. Like we were talking the other day. There was I was talking with Jen. We were doing some painting, and I was watching a movie the other day, and a phone rang, like a landline phone, and I turned to my wife. I was like that almost sounds foreign now to hear a landline phone ring, because people don't have it. And I remember the first time, it was actually one of my cousins said something along the lines of, "Oh, I don't have a landline. I just have my cell phone." And I mean, this was maybe 15 years ago. And in my head, I was like, "That's crazy." Maybe even 20. I was like, "That's crazy. You just have a cell phone? Like you don't have a landline?" But if you really thought logically back then, it said, why would you have one that you could carry with you? And then why would you need one just sitting on a wall? Like now we look at them like, that sounds so dumb that was the case. But back then we're like, it's like taboo to like carry your phone around. That your phone has to be on the actual wall of your house, which, puts my mind in drive of like, what else doesn't need to actually be there or doesn't need to actually happen? But we believe it should because of like our preconceived notions or how we've grown up or a certain way like that has to happen. It's like in our business, is there a practice that we've always done in our business? But it's like, wait, are we doing that? Are we doing that because we have to? Meaning, is it like a legal thing we need to do? Or are we just doing it because it's just been set as a precedent for years and just nobody's ever changed it? and it's just become common, but it doesn't make any sense to do it. So why don't we just change it and make everything a little bit more streamlined? And I think I try to think of that stuff. I mean, it's tough because you're like kind of really have to think outside the box. But I find a lot of that stuff opens the door to more efficiencies, like more, just simple things that you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, why would we keep doing it that way when we can change it and just make it more simple? And a lot of this is time saving, like effort or, I don't know. You could think of anything like that in your, or even since opening, the new business. Have you, like you and Cody, have thought of anything that jumps out that you just said, well, this is way easier than what we were doing a month ago? That might like, and this might not even be like, physically doing work, but even like how you bill or how you, like I said, quote people, or how you just, buy material. Like, is there things like, well, why did we do that? Why don't we change it?
I guess, a month ago is a little bit of a short time, but if you think about how starting a business a few years ago, I would have definitely wanted my phone number on my shirts in my van. I don't have that. Even when I went to get stuff done, they're like, you don't want your phone number? Like, no, I don't. No one's going to drive by that van and see 518-569-1842 and remember that. But they might catch Phaze Services, and even if they don't see it's phazeservices.com, I have the Facebook logo and Instagram and Pinterest logo on it. Just so someone says, I'm going to look on Facebook.
You know what I think's and I agree. And does your business card have all your stuff on it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So one I will argue, there was a person that came the other day and they dropped off business cards. And it's the first time I ever saw it, and I think this is a problem, was that the card had the company and had like the phone number and the website and all that. It didn't actually have the person's name.
Huh.
Which was different, and I've never seen that before. And it kind of got me thinking, because my mind instantly goes into, that's weird. Was it just an oversight, or was it purposely left off? And then I remember, and it kind of, in my head, I'm like, if you're doing a business card, you typically want your name. And the problem was, I got done. I talked to this person and, for maybe 5 minutes, couldn't remember their name. Like, nice person, had the company, no clue what that person's name was. And it wasn't until I checked my email and I had an email from this person, which had their name on it. But I said, if he just gave me the business card, I never would have known who this person, like I would have had to like go search the company and search the contact and see if there was an about section about the person. But to me, that hurts because it's as simple as knowing who the heck the person was. But I will say, having all the extra stuff on it, I don't think is needed. One of the leverage points or the cool things that I found, like whether it's card or van or just something, I think QR codes are still really brilliant in what they can do. In the sense that you can scan it and it just brings up everything you need to know, meaning you can tell more about a QR code than listing it plastered all over your van. Like, imagine the back of your van just had a massive QR code and you had some kind of a call to action. So someone parked behind you on the road, like, you're not supposed to drive with your phone. Everybody does. You pull your phone out and at the stoplight and you hit, the QR code, and that brings up to your social platform, or brings up to your videos of you, or brings up to something about you guys. And I think that's a better way of marketing than just say, like, go to this website. Same thing. If you give someone a card and it's got a QR code that then transitions them to your website, or a landing page to sign up for something, sign up for your newsletter, sign up for a free gift, sign up for whatever that might be, some item of value. That's a way to call capture that person.
Sure.
But it's also a way for you to expand and say a lot about you by not putting a lot out.
I would agree with that, but I would say that's kind of in the moment. So that QR code's great. It's on the back of a business card, like restaurant menus, right?
Yep.
If I'm though trying to brand my people to remember me, maybe they're not able to do that, or they're not at that moment in the business. They see Phaze Services, keep seeing that obnoxiously large Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram logo. I just feel I'm putting that thought in their head, so when they're ready.
100%. No, 100%. Like, your van's got to have it, but I'm saying as like an extra step, because you talked about, like, okay, I'm not putting my number on, they're not putting everything else, but if you put a QR code with something on the back, I think that's the way to, like, pop it up. And
I'd rather have that than a phone number, because people are going to use a QR card. No one's going to write that phone number down. Minimal.
100%. And even a website. Like, you won't remember the website.
Sure you won't.
And it could be something simple. Like, ours is CavanaughRealty.com. Like, it's pretty, like, if someone had to look up Cavanaugh Realty, be like, I don't know, CavanaughRealty.com. Let me check it, because it's simple. Maybe was it last year? I think it was last year. I was sitting down watching the Super Bowl, and
Oh, yeah, the QR code ad.
yes, and I remember sitting there, and the QR code goes up for 30 seconds, and it cost them probably $3 million to run that ad. And I remember sitting there watching it, and my wife Gina, she was sitting there, and I was like, "That might be the greatest Super Bowl commercial I've ever seen." And she goes, "What are you talking about? This is like so stupid." I said, "Watch the amount of people that, because it doesn't give you any reason. You have no clue what it is and what it was to do. It taps into our curiosity. What the hell does that QR code go to? Am I missing? Is it a free giveaway? Is it something cool? Is it just like a Pepsi commercial? Like, what is this whole thing about?" And then I ended up reading, I think the next day, whatever the company was, and I totally forgot what it was. The server went down because so many people. I mean, you're in front of, let's say, 120 million people watching this, and 100 million of them have cell phones in their hand as they're watching it. That's a great way to. And now, I have no clue what the call to action was or what that brought them to.
I don't remember, yeah.
But at the end of the day, the server went down because so many people looked at it. And in my mind, I'm like, that is perfect because people are already there. You're already tapping in, but you give no reason to, make someone look away. And the other thing too was like, think about if you're just hanging out and there's noise and all of a sudden the screen goes quiet. What do people do? Because there's no sound. It was just blank. It was like quiet. People like look and like, who paused the TV? Wait, what the heck's going on? Did the TV fall? Like what's going on? It brings people's attention just by turning the noise off. Because then people think, did someone pause the TV? Did someone turn the channel? Did the TV shut off? Like, and you just look up and you see this QR code staring you in the face for 30 seconds, which is people like, this is stupid. And it's like, what the heck is that? Hey, let me go get my phone. And then you go, like, you have time to do all that. I thought it was brilliant. I thought that was probably the best Super Bowl commercial from effectiveness besides just like the memorable, like, one-liner joke ones.
Yeah, and that's right. You got to stand out. If you're doing the Super Bowl, that's the way to do that. I'm not going to say it's not branding, but you're better off with something that's going to just pop real quick and get someone to take action. If you're Pepsi Cola, Frito-Lays, that kind of thing, boom, that Super Bowl ad's great. You see that and like, hell yeah, I want to get some Fritos right now. That sounds great. You only going to see it one time. You already know what Fritos is.
Yeah, I just think it's so simple. It's almost like someone just like really outside the box is like, let's just like not think too hard about this. And then it's like, that's actually brilliant. Because most people I think would go think too hard on that. Like we got to one up the other people. We got to make this like spectacular, this blockbuster movie. And then some jabroni was just like, just throw a QR code up there and put no sound and let's see what happens. I don't know. I think it was
brilliant. I agree.
I think it's fascinating.
Right. There's no noise. I mean, what the hell's going on? Exactly. I looked at the QR code. I don't remember what it was. I wasn't in the market for it. But I was like, I got to see what this is. I'm intrigued.
I almost look here. I'm going to look this up because it's actually bothering me, the QR code. Because there was one the year prior or 2 years prior. It was a hockey one. Do you remember that one? And it was like, I want to say it was like Cindy Crosby. It could have been something totally different. And they were playing whatever it was, like almost like pick up hockey, like on a pond or something like that. And it all of a sudden it just like shut off. And it was like, I feel like they were playing and it showed them like both scoring, and all of a sudden it was like showing, kind of flashing the score back and forth, and it was like, a neck and neck game. And all of a sudden it just like went black, and then like a QR code went up and said, "Look, like visit to find out who won," or something like that. And that one blew up. And I feel like the person that did the one the following year just like one up that idea. So let me go. QR code Super Bowl commercial 20. It was fudge. Try not to swear, Paul. Trying to be better. QR code.
I'm trying, buddy. You know that.
I know. Just I almost. This is I'm not kidding. It's not PG. Screw that. Coinbase bouncing QR code Super Bowl ad was so popular it crashed the app. Coinbase. That was it. Let me see. In case you missed it, now we have attention. We'd like to announce that we're giving away $15 in BTC to anyone who joins Coinbase by 2/15. Oh, and it caused you. That's brilliant. We're giving you something to sign up. And how much did that blow up there? The full 60-second ad almost entirely consists of a colorful bouncing QR code. Okay. Coinbase, so some type of Bitcoin. That is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wild. So, Paul Deyoe, give us a... So, Phaze Phaze Services. I've been using you guys now for, I feel like 18 months, but it hasn't been that long. How long? Close to 2 months now.
Yeah,
in and out.
Yep.
Maybe. So, what's your opinion on the space so far? This space, the current space, and then we'll talk about, I guess, your business. Because I made you do a bunch of quarter round for me, so I know that's you guys aren't quarter round guys, but you did it.
No, I said we're not finished people, man. I give it a shot. I'll swing a
honest.
bat.
You guys are honest. Like,
We're
hey,
honest,
it's not our
exactly,
thing.
man. It's not our thing. Yep. I ain't gonna post pictures of this thing on my Instagram account right at this work.
Some of it was good.
Some of it was good. Oh yeah, I don't want to knock. Right.
I should say I would say majority of what you've done is very good, and like there's a couple minor things that the only reason we mention it is honestly to bust each other's balls. I don't think it's bad at all. It's fine.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and those are the things I said. Man, I'll give it a shot, dude. Like the drywall's all right, man. That's a solid B+.
Yeah, exactly. But I also look at it, I'm like, this isn't my house. Like, this is just like, it's a business. It's like we've been doing work here, and we were painting the ceiling in that room. This is what we shut. It was like high glossy paint. I sanded it all down, and I put in like a flat ceiling paint. And we got to the point where like, did we miss something? We had to shut the lights off, put up like a work light up on it to shine it, to get like different color, like to see the different tones up there. And then like Jen was pointing it up, and I was going up and touching it up almost blindly. And then you pop the ceiling light on, and all the LED, whatever, the overhead lights come out and blind you. Like nobody would ever notice that. So most of it, like when you're doing this like tedious work, you notice every little thing that's not perfect, but nobody will ever notice.
Correct.
Like I could sit here and like pick out in this room, and I would say the average person would come in this room and be like, "Oh, it looks great," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, good thing to see like that and that," but like I'd have to even like look for the problem. But now that I feel like you've lived here for like 6 weeks. What's your general consensus, Paul, on like doing some stuff here, but just like how the new business, how you guys like doing, what you're doing, because it's new, it's a new thing. Mm-hmm. So what's the general feeling of Phaze Services at this point? Still fairly in the infancy stage.
That's right. We're 4 months into it. Like I said, I've been thinking about it for a while. It worked out kind of great that I'm in the middle of careers. I'm looking for a career change, something different. I've always thought about going back to my roots. My friend Cody Lobdell, he was also in the middle of career change, looking for something else. We said, why don't we if there's ever a chance to do it, it's now. Mm-hmm. Northeast Group, as you know, came to me like, hey, you want to do a remote thing selling strictly business? We know you have all the contacts and experience. I was like, man, that's kind of perfect. And I have the family heating business, so I can lean back on my dad and others if I need a hand or help with a question. And then now's the time to try this. And we saw that was a niche. You look at the way that things are getting, in some ways, more commercialized. I hate how much I spend on Amazon, versus locally. But it's like you said, I know that my credit card's on file. It's easy. Even Target, I'd rather go there because at least I'm employing local people, even though it's still a major corporation.
Yeah.
But with Phaze, I saw in services, that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. That's where there is a need. Everybody I've talked to is they can't keep up with the demand. As time goes on, the mechanical side of electrical, plumbing, HVAC is getting more and more complicated. I was talking to Riley Ford about the car business. I didn't even change my own oil. That car is so complicated these days, I would never work on something like that on my own. Same thing here. I feel like this is a niche that people always need this service. And it's become bigger and bigger, and people are so thankful that I can't be more thankful enough for the people that have come to me, the people I know like you, to give us a chance.
Well, I also think, and I've been saying this for years, and I think this is, I don't have the knowledge base. I'm trying to learn, and I would say, we've been here for almost 8 weeks now. The amount of time that I've spent here is quite high, but I've noticed my skills have gotten better from when I was 8. And I'm not redoing the heating and plumbing and stuff, but just simple little things, some finishing work, some just like technique stuff that I've learned. And like I was even talking to you, I got to hang something up and need a masonry bit. Like, okay, I know those exist. I had to look into it. And this, like someone that does this all the time is like, yeah, like that's so simple. But if you don't have that knowledge and you've never done it before, it's new. So now I'm like, okay, great. I've learned that today. I know what that is. I know what, and again, that is a small thing on the construction scale, but I would say majority of people don't have that knowledge. And I didn't, and that's a small thing. I didn't have that knowledge until, in the last day or two. So the problem is the people that would have that knowledge, a lot of those people are retiring or unfortunately passing away because of age. Like our parents and grandparents and great grandparents generations could just do everything. They had to. They understood how to do everything because they were forced to do it, and whatever it might be. But a lot of those, we talked about Bud Wynn, like, Bud's on the back nine of his career. You know what I mean? He's not like starting over, but he's fantastic. So if he leaves, who's filling in that gap and who has that knowledge base? Or someone like with the electric, and you have these guys that are retiring, and you have, things are getting more complicated, or there's more people. There's like all these things bode to the point where the trades, to me, are going to have they already are, going to have this resurgence because not many people get into them. That versus the demand, and I also feel like there was a time. I mean, I've been at a high school like 15 years or so. Like I would say 15, 20 years ago, the kids that went to CV Tech, everybody just thought, well, they're just like, they just don't want to do the hard classes. They don't want to do the hard learning. They want to and there was a stigma around that as like, these kids can't hack, the physics and the chemistry and the advanced calculus and all this crap. But then you realize like, oh, those guys can build their own house. Like those guys can fix their own car. Those guys can weld and build or do electric or do all these things that are way more important than figuring out how to get to, the Pythagorean theorem and all that crap. Like, and I find that has transitioned. Now you're seeing like a generation removed from even 15, 20 years ago that have retired. Now you're looking at it like, I can't find anybody. I can't get someone to come do any work. Why is the price so high? It's like, well, one is supply and demand. And also it's essential as can be. I mean, we went through COVID. Like anybody who's lost heat in the middle of January in upstate New York knows the essentialness of, someone on call that can do their HVAC or can do your plumbing. Like, I just think that anybody that goes into that business, and I'll dive into something afterwards, but do you find is that true? Like,
yes.
Just people phasing out of phase, shout out the phase, but people are actually phasing out. People are actually phasing out, and then businesses like Phase and others, people step up. I think we can have a very lucrative career because there's going to be a big gap or a big need for that very soon.
Oh, absolutely. That is very true. And like that experience aspect of it, that it's everything getting more complicated. Like you said, once you try something, you're getting better and better at it. And I learned that myself. Even quarter round, right? I was like, oh man, you want me doing quarter round, dude? I suck at that. I've gotten better just doing a little bit here, right? I've done another job with it. It's like, all right. Yeah. That people learn best, I feel like, by doing. You can read a book or be taught something, and that's there's a place for that. Once you try it, they're going to learn so much better. I've even heard that if you teach others, now I'm really going to study and be prepared, and that's the best way to learn. But that's for another day.
Well, so I guess you guys have been doing it for 4 months. In that 4-month span, have you been pretty much lined up to do something every day?
It's getting to that point now.
Almost
it wasn't, obviously at first you're unknown, but after a few months, like, oh man, we got stuff. We're booking out a couple of weeks almost now.
So, and the reason, or the thing I'm getting at is like, take 4. I'm coming from my industry, but a lot of different industries. Like, if you're just starting up a business, like typically 4 months into a business, it's very hard to get like a steady stream of clients or income or whatever. Someone like you guys going in and having the knowledge base and doing some like social media marketing, which a lot of things don't do, to me is you start to increase, the word of mouth or the the brand image of you guys. But in 4 weeks or 4 months, you're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we're starting to get that steady stream of people, which, for contractors, we talked about like advertising. Eventually you get to the point where like, we don't really have to spend money on marketing because we're booked out 6 months. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't really have to market to book it out. I mean, the only thing that you would do at that point is allow you to raise your prices based on demand.
Well, that's, in the advertising world, we've talked about that. There's a kitchen and bath company out towards Boston, Hearst used to work with, and maybe some others. And this company would do a kitchen sale. Hey, this L-shaped kitchen is, let's say, it's $4,000 or $5,000, and tell what it is. Mm-hmm. If they got bombarded and couldn't keep up with the business, they just raised the price of higher end cabinets. Here's a more higher end kitchen. Now it's a $12,000 kitchen. you're going to limit the number of people coming in, but now those that come in are really hot prospects that can afford the more expensive kitchen.
And they're still going to keep you busy.
And you're
with the
still
demand.
busy. Yep, and the branding's still there. Oh, absolutely. Yep, that's it.
Well, and I think that's always the idea is that if you can increase, it's like anything else. Like I always go back to the art world, because when you look at art itself, I think there was something that sold a couple years ago. It was a metallic bunny. And I know this sounds crazy.
I'm listening, man. You got me intrigued.
No,
didn't see you going this way.
I had you at metallic bunny.
That's it.
So,
Piqued my interest.
So metallic bunny art. I don't know. It's got to come up. There's no way this doesn't come up. So this, yes, perfect. NPR.org. So Jeff Koons, Rabbit, fetches $91 million auction record for work by a living artist. That's it. Okay. So I would say, Paul, you're probably looking at this and not really blown away by this piece of art. So for people that obviously you're listening, type in Rabbit by Jeff Koons. You'll see it. It's a metallic, shiny bunny, and I would say loose bunny in the sense that it almost looks like balloons. Almost looks like you know, people have like the number balloons, like, you know, 21st birthday, and you know they got the dorm rooms pictures, that kind of stuff. This one, it looks like a bunny holding a carrot with two ears, no facial expression. Arguably something that seems very easy to duplicate. Sold for $91 million at an auction. So it's 3 feet tall. So this is not even like a 20-foot tall structure.
That's a rabbit. That ain't a bunny. That's a rabbit.
That's a rabbit. I mean, these things. This is bunnies. When you're a rabbit, you didn't age gracefully.
Bunnies under 12.
Bunnies
inches,
are cute.
right?
Rabbits, you're an old bunny. So okay. So, this isn't even Roger Rabbit. This is just Rabbit. This is what's called Rabbit. So this whole thing sells for $91 million. It's 3 feet tall. And again, it's funny because like this desk is probably 3 feet tall. So this stupid thing is like this tall is $91 million. But my idea behind this is if that's $91 million, what makes it $91 million?
I don't know, man, because I've heard of rabbits that are like $40 to do far more for you than that thing does.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
If you want more rabbits too, they'll like this rabbit's not producing rabbits. So, but the whole idea is like behind it is the $91 million is only there because somebody had a demand for it. And more than one person had the demand for this rabbit. I mean, I work in a commodities market. Real estate's commodity. No, there's no price tag to a home. Like if you're selling to me or you're selling to 5 other people, we're all going to have a different kind of agreed upon price. Or maybe you just don't sell because your number's too high and someone doesn't want to match it. Obviously, someone was willing to pay $91 million for this bunny rabbit. So why, or not even bunny rabbit, rabbit. So what? Like again, what would cause it? It's purely based on whoever this Jeff Koons guy is, which if you know who he is, I apologize. I don't know who he is. He got very rich selling this rabbit. But if someone else, if Paul Deyoe came and replicated this to the exact dimensions, and they said that's by Jeff and this one's by Paul, most likely, people would, for some reason, still pay more for that because it's Jeff. Same thing, you got a Yeti. If you get a Polar, it's like 60% of the price. Probably does the exact same thing, but people buy Yeti because of the name. People buy Nike shoes, and maybe the ones that's not as high known as a brand fetches a little lesser amount.
I hear you, man. I know you're married, but if you and I went to a bar and both told the same joke, I'm going to get more results from people than you. That's just the way it goes because it's me.
Absolutely. When you got a face for TV and radio,
right? Exactly.
I got a face for radio, man. So this is, but yeah. So that's it. That's it. And I just think that when you look at, you take something from the art world, and that's why it's so hard for people that are artists to do, like when people kind of like the struggling artists, it's because you're making art, but you have to have people have to find a reason to like the art. And
same with bands or music. Well, they're artists too, but
same.
It's like right, exactly.
But it's like, but at the end of the day, it might not even be the like music's a little different because you kind of, I guess not. I don't know, because art you got to like looking at it, but I feel like music you can hear it and get more enjoyment out of it. Where, because we both can hear it. Like if I got this. I mean, this didn't cost $91 million, but we're looking at this picture. I might like it because I like that show and I like the scene and I like whatever. You might say I hate that show. I'm not gonna get it. And then, maybe I like the frame. Maybe I buy it because there's some nostalgic piece to it that my mom liked it when she was a kid. I don't know, but that brings people to the demand for that product. So I find that if you're like an artist, you have to somehow get people to like you for some reason that would then want to pay for something that you produced. Meaning like you going out and putting in, say you went in and you put in a new furnace and you did a really crappy job. Someone's not going to, or the next person came in and put the same furnace in, but for whatever reason just did it a little bit better. I don't know. A little cleaner, maybe better handwriting on the tags, or just
that's a given, yeah.
Cleaner lines, something like that. But they might end up taking that over you. But maybe you're best friends with that person. Like, Paul's not that great, but it's Paul. We love Paul. And you get the business anyways because by that relationship. So there's different ways to get the demand, but it's like it's always funny how like pricing works. But if you can build up the demand for your product service and you get that demand, like you said, the cabinetry or a kitchen company, then you start charging 2x what you were charging because someone will pay it and enough people will pay it to keep you afloat or keep your margins where they need to be, or they increase your margins, but you wouldn't drop off in customers.
Correct. And I think there's a trust factor too. If I was to sell a home tomorrow, as I know you probably better than any realtor, I'm going to go through you. I'm going to trust that whatever your margins is going to be competitive and you're going to be fair to me. I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to cost check. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to believe that's the same with me. If you know me, Paul's going to charge a fair margin. He may not be the cheapest, but I know him. I trust him.
He's not going to be the best, not going to be the nicest, but we like him.
Yeah, it's like my finish carpentry. I'm going to be called Cutting Corners Finish Carpentry, right?
That's. I still think you should do that, and then
Little Caesars $5 pizza. Is it good? It's hot and it's ready. It's $5. I mean, come on.
That's. I was going to say, what's funny?
I do love Little Caesars pizza. I'm not knocking on you guys.
I do love Little Caesars pizza, but it's funny. They don't actually put good. They just say it's hot and ready.
That's all you need, baby. Right? That's their niche, exactly.
It's like we want speed, we want convenience.
They're not saying we're the freshest ingredients. Tomatoes growing right out back here, and they're not saying that.
Yeah, we're not saying this is straight from
That's
Italy.
not their game, exactly.
No, it's like hot and ready. Like
it's hot and it's ready, baby. It's $5.
You're hungry. It's $5. Like just show up, give me a greenback, and see ya.
Yeah,
that's. I agree. What is your favorite pizza place locally?
I say Giuseppe's. I do love Giuseppe's, but
I'm not gonna say the pizza place. What's your favorite pizza locally?
I really love a New York style. Thin crust, right, with a...
Can you give me a company, though? Like, restaurant company. Can you give me a restaurant locally?
A local one?
Or, just give me, like, anything. It could be Little Caesars.
I love New York pizza, man.
So, I've heard that from a lot of people. I've had it once, I think, before. You know what my favorite pizza is? And we had it a few months ago. I've gone to this place before. I have never ordered pizza from this place. We got it on a whim. Like, let's just get pizza from there and try it. And this by far now is my favorite pizza in Plattsburgh, the thin crust pizza at Mickey's.
Oh, I didn't think of Mickey's. Right, that's on my list now.
Like,
growing.
When I think about Mickey's, like Mickey's is great,
right? It is,
but Mickey's I always find is like an underground gem because it's kind of like it's in its own little niche, like in the area, and you typically people go to the bar and stuff, and people go to a restaurant. But I find if you're going to a restaurant, not a lot of people just order pizza when they go to a restaurant. You might order it more on the bar side, but I've been to Mickey's plenty of times. I never ordered the pizza. Like I'd get wings or nachos or something, but we've never ordered pizza. And we got it, and that is by far my favorite pizza. But it's the thin. I think they have thick and thin. The thin crust pizza there is the best pizza in Plattsburgh, in my opinion.
I might not be arguing with that. Right, it is really good.
Take it for what it is.
Yeah, I got you.
You know, my other. It's not my favorite. It's a totally different style, but it's in my top like 2 or 3. Is just the Arnie's pizza. Different style. Totally different, like cook like everything under with the cheese.
All right.
And it's in the crust. The crust there's like it's almost like a buttery crust. Like you don't get like I don't like the really doughy crust. So when you get like the generic, you get like a Dino's, Bazzano's, you get like those kind like Zachary's. They all have that like thick dough crust. The pizza part I like. The dough was like too heavy for me. It's always like thin crust pizza because just like you get more toppings, but it doesn't fill you up as much with like the crusty part. But then Arnie's has like that buttery crust, which is really good. So,
yeah, that's like North Country Club pizza. I don't know if you ever had that in Keysville. Now it's called North Country Food Company, something you can buy at Arnold's Grocery.
Is it still good?
It's still really good, right? You buy it frozen now. It's not at the restaurant. You buy it frozen, cook it at home. It's really different. It's not like any pizza you've had before. The crust is different. I don't know what he's doing in it. but it's wonderful.
It's
a niche.
It's weird how they.
Is it my favorite? No, but it's completely unique and.
My favorite's Mickey's right now. If I had to pick, you give me one pizza, I'm getting Mickey's pizza, the thin crust.
It's hard to argue that right now. I'm trying to think what's.
Like, and there's some good ones. Like I love Hobie's.
I love Giuseppe's.
I love Giuseppe's.
Hobie's,
Yeah, like they're all good. I mean, I'm not saying that these places are bad pizza. I'm just saying
I like Pizza Palace for what it is. It's not my number one style, that thicker crust, but I like it.
I like. See, I like. They have really good wings.
They do.
My favorite wings are the Romeo wings at Pasquale's, Hobie's, whatever. Those.
Oh yeah.
Those are my top ones. But Pizza Palace has really good wings. The pizza's good. I always find that sometimes the inside of the pizza is not fully cooked. Like I've had it before where like the inside is like when you like pull it off, like when you like pull the pizza off, you cut it and you pull it, and like the inside of the cheese just like drags off the pizza. I've had that multiple times and I don't like that.
Yeah, you definitely got to cool a little bit for sure.
It tastes good. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, it all goes in the same place. But to me, it's just like sometimes, like maybe that's why I like Mickey's. Just pick it up. It's just there. It's like solid, holds together. Eat it. It's great. You fold it up in like a little like burrito look, and you kind of have that. So I don't know. This is like an aside, but I think Mickey's pizza, because nobody thinks of, like I don't think people think about it, but I think if you tell people that, they're like, yes, Mickey's pizza, thin crust. I got to distinguish it. I got to distinguish that.
I love my boy New York pizza, but I might change my opinion. I do love Mickey's thin crust.
They're close, but the New York pizza though is just takeout.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like quick, like you mean to take out and go. What's your favorite? If you could have one food the rest of your life, Paul, what would it be?
That's hard because I'm definitely a foodie. I like a little bit of everything. Pizza kind of sticks out as a pretty universal. You have a few times a year. All time though, it's the one thing you get.
But let's not say
like on my deathbed, what am I eating or asking for the last meal? I'm gonna be electrocuted.
That's how you're going, electrocution.
I don't know. No, not me. Yeah. My last meal in prison. Like you're gonna be executed tonight.
You're like, well, if I'm getting executed,
what's that last meal? Right?
I'm actually gonna, if you were gonna waterboard me, I'm gonna totally have a different last meal. But no, I would. Let's not even go the only food you could eat. Let's say what's one food you could eat every day. Meaning you could eat other foods throughout the day, but like. For like some meal of the day, you had to have this food. What could you do every single day without fail? And you want to get sick of it.
It might be some kind of a pizza, especially if I can mix it around with different types of it, right?
I would give you that. Like okay. If you just said I can get pizza, but I can get like I could get Mickey's thin crust pizza, but I get to pick any toppings I want, and I can mix up the toppings. I would give you that.
I kind of like that because you can mix it up. Maybe get a wheat crust one time. Maybe you're right. I'm trying to balance it out. It's not the worst thing for you to eat. It always sounds pretty good.
So you go with pizza? That'd be it?
I think so. I'm trying to think.
I'm not going to hold you to this. I'm just saying, like like off the cuff. This would be. Something
I like that it's going to be salad, dude. But I'd be lying if I said a salad every day, right?
I mean,
I try to eat salads every day, but because that's what I want.
I think even if you get a salad and you can mix up the salad, I would get sick of salad.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Like if you could say you could have Cobb's, anything. I mean, whatever, Caesar, Asian chopped noodle, whatever. Like you could have all those salads. I'd eventually get sick of salads.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I think this. I always go back and forth between two. I'm going to give you the one that I think is second, and I'll give you my first one. Sushi. I love sushi, and I would put it up there, but I feel like at a certain point I would get tired of eating sushi.
I don't eat that. That stuff swam, man. I ain't eating nothing.
You don't like sushi at all? I love sushi. So
swam, crawl on the bottom of the ocean floor, whatever, man. I ain't eating.
You're not a fish guy.
No. I'll do an occasional piece of shrimp because I love shrimp cocktail sauce, like extra horseradish.
That's crazy. Like there's some people that just do not like fish.
No, man, that's swam. I don't know what it is. I didn't have it growing up. Whatever.
I like fish, but like so sushi's up there. But I think the only thing that would overtake sushi is Chipotle for me.
Oh, I do love Chipotle. Isn't that some good stuff?
But this is the thing. Like when you talk about like you could have it every day. It's not the only thing you get to eat, but you could go and get some version of that every single day. I would sign me up every day.
I think it's sound a lot better for you, right? That's more.
I mean, there was a certain point where I was eating it like 2-3 times a week.
Oh, I hear you, man.
And I was, I mean, there was a couple times I met you there, and it was like, it wasn't even. There was not one point where I'm like, really, Chipotle? I want to go there. I'm like, Chipotle, yeah, fine. Like, it's ready. It looks good. It's there. We like it. It's easy to eat. I always get the bowl. I get
a bowl too, right?
Yeah, easy to eat. Tastes good. Ingredients are good. I also find that this is the other thing too. The cost for what you get, for the satisfaction, fulfillment, and I would say like let's say the health implications of it is like the best deal going. Just some places I go and I'm like, the food's great, it's healthy, whatever. I'm like, why? I just spent $18 and I'm not full. Then I have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's like what I was talking about pad thai once. It's like I could buy pad thai at Sawadee for I don't know what it costs. Let's say it's $12 or something like that, or I could spend $42 to buy the ingredients at the store and make a shittier version of pad thai. Can I say that? I don't know if I can, but you know what I'm saying? You might as well spend the $12.
Yeah, I mean, Sawadee is actually one of my favorite restaurants.
Me too.
Would you get pad thai?
Pad thai.
My favorite's the Kugai.
All right.
Which is like egg noodles with brown. It's egg noodles with brown sauce, and it's got like bean sprouts. It doesn't have broccoli. I wish it did. Has bean sprouts. I usually get the pork, and I forgot what the other stuff's in there. It's really good though, but it's simple. It's like a nice little meal. It's easy. It's not very saucy. It's not very spicy. It's got like a nice like sweet tang to it. It's just like solid. It's like that mindless, like you can just scoop it, like comfort food kind of thing.
Drunken noodle, that's some good stuff, man.
But it's like easy to eat. It's like when you get like I like shepherd's pie. Like when you get shepherd's pie, like just throw it into a bowl. I just want to sit there and just eat it. I don't want to cut. I don't want to really chew hard. I just want to sit there and scoop it and like enjoy that. Like it's like a casserole. If you get a casserole and you throw it in like a tuna fish casserole, you throw that on a bowl. You don't like fish, I get it. But like if you threw that in a bowl and just ate it, it'd be good. And it's like, it's like
goulash everything, man. Yeah, give me a bowl of that, right? Exactly. That's easy. Yep, exactly.
Just like something simple that's not hard. Like even spaghetti, like you got to twist it and sometimes it can be messy. Like goulash, you just scoop it on your fork or spoon and eat it. And it's easy.
Made from the finest cans sold at Hannaford, right? Exactly. Processed in a factory in New York City. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's it. Straight up 87, right to your mouth. Like how about the other day when we ordered? So, have you ever ordered anything from B&H?
No,
that's where I got the light.
Oh, that was incredible.
So we're gonna tell this backstory here. So B&H, I don't know what it stands for. It's a video photo company out of New York City. Is the home base. So I've never seen a company. Let's say they've never seen a company ship products faster and get to your door faster. The only other one I could probably say is Chewy, the dog food thing. They're pretty damn quick too. But so B&H. I ordered it, probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like on like a Thursday, and it was at our door by like 10 a.m. the next morning.
Right, and you told me at 2 it's going to be here the next day. I said, you're fudging me, man. There's no way it's going to do that, right?
Well, then when I'm like, there's a possibility this comes the next day. I'm not guaranteeing it. Possibility. And this was just standard shipping. I didn't pay any extra. I ended up getting something from them that said it's going to be probably Tuesday. I ordered it on Thursday. I'm like, that's fine. We're kind of like close to Christmas. I totally get it. Then all of a sudden, like an hour and a half later, I got a notification saying it had shipped. Now it's coming straight up from New York City. So whatever they did, like put it on New York City to Albany up here, whatever they did, like FedEx dropped it off at like 10:30 in the morning. Because I remember looking, I'm like, we got an extra package. What the heck's that? And sure enough.
Oh, yeah. And I got here just after it came and I said, oh my God, that donkey hole was right.
Seconds after that, I opened that up. You literally walked in and I had to tell him, like, literally, Paul, I just put it right down on the couch. Like this, look at this. Came in.
You son of a bitch. It's here. I'll be damned.
Cody's mouth dropped. It was like we all were in shock. And
what a day to be alive. What a time.
And I was in my head, I was like,
$5 hot and readies and one day delivered from New York City.
I was like, B&H did me right again. Good. So anybody needs like photo video equipment. And again, B&H, shout out. They were good, but they're a pretty big company down in New York City, but they have a ton of camera. If you're a camera video guy, like they have everything. It's like the Walmart superstore of that equipment, and they ship fast, hot and ready.
Yeah, not
$5, but not $5, but it was hot and ready. It's about what's the goal with Phaze? Like, what are we? Are you still kind of in the infancy enough where like you haven't really thought about like the next stages, or do you guys have some like master plan? Or
it's so funny you mention that because like we just talked about for the last 20 years, I've got my MBA. I've talked about putting business plans together and helping businesses do that. I don't have none of that for Phaze yet. We've kind of started. We're getting busy. I'm finding you got to set time aside to do that. I need a business plan, right? What are my goals for next year? What are my sales goals? The insurance company asks how much you can do in sales year one. Dude, I don't know that, man.
So, but this is something that you like.
But I got to do that, right? I need to have a plan of.
Well, I would think you would start planning that. Like now, like
we're talking, right? So I don't think
now you're your own owner, like business owner,
right? I'm not saying I have nothing. So I think the goal would be to get to the point where I sustain myself, my partner. We're making a good career. We're kind of talking about what are our goals personally. How much money maybe are we looking to make? How do we get to that point?
So were you like this before when you were in sales? Like how did that work? You like when you were doing sales before, were you like commission based? Were you salary based? Were you like
Yeah, sales. When I was especially an account executive, it was 100% commissioned at that point.
really? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were like in that grind.
Right.
Even all the way to the end, you were still in that same position, or did you have base salary and like?
Yeah, it was a sales manager, right? There was base and bonuses. Yeah, exactly.
But
So
but originally as a salesperson, it was just-
100%. And
Okay.
So that's why I'm maybe not too scared because I'm used to that.
Okay.
You kind of know when the big check comes in. Hey, we had a busy month, right? We were at Kavanaugh for a couple of months. Hey, that's not going to be the same next month. You got to kind of prepare for things are going to come and go for a while.
The ebbs and flows.
The ebbs and flows, exactly.
So now,
you know that too, is that you've been in business longer than I have. But
well, I mean, I've like you always have sales goals down, and I think that I've done some stuff good, but some stuff bad. One of the things that I'm terrible at, and I'm kind of trying to get better at it, is I've never done sales goals. Like 2022 for me was the first year in, I think it was my 12th year, was my first year I didn't write down sales goals. Like purely didn't write down. I had other goals, not sales related, not in a bad thing, not in a bad way. Like
Sure.
I hit my 10-year goal in the business. I had come off of like back-to-back years. I was the number one sales agent. Like I had I hit the pinnacle. I was like, great. I peaked out. I was top. And then I had to take a couple. Then there was a few things like business-wise where I'm like, okay, I'm planning more long-term than short-term. Like short-term would be keep doing what I'm doing, which is lucrative in the short term. But kind of with that analogy I told you about before, it takes long. I'd have to keep doing that for a long, long period of time over and over and over again. So I was like, let me take like a step or two back to try to propel myself even further down the road and really get that hockey stick growth. But I had to make some short-term sacrifices. So when it comes down to sales, 2022 was the first year in real estate that I did not make a sales goal. Like I didn't care what I sold. Obviously I was like semi-aware of it, but I was down substantially because I just didn't put the time into that because I was putting a ton of time into things that most people will never get to see. If that makes sense, they will, but like you individually would not see the work that I put in this past year. I will see it on the grand, like the 30,000 foot view of everything. It's going to have a really bigger impact than me doing what I was doing before. Individually, I don't think people will notice as much. But I had to take that step back to jump forward. So the sales goal, I will say, if you have sales goals numbers, even up to that point in time, I never made a sales goal based on money, which was, I don't know if that was good or bad. I always just did it based on like numbers. Like how many homes, how many units. Like I always was based on numbers. I didn't care about price. Even though we got paid off a price, like I don't get paid, if I sell a home, I don't get a flat fee. I get paid based on like if I sold a $500,000 home, it's way better than me selling a $100,000 home. But I never had in my mind that I treated the $500,000 home different than a $100,000 home. Now,
sure, okay, I would agree.
Now,
with
in
that.
the sense that a logical person might say, "Well, you're making 5 times as much money." I'm like, that's absolutely true, and typically for less work than I would do with 100,000. I never, and still to this day, I have that same mindset. Like people get excited, like, "Oh my God, you sold like a higher priced home." And if you were to say, I'm like, yeah, like I don't get excited to see, like I don't, like I sold us like let's say I sell something over $500,000. That doesn't excite me any different than if I put someone under for an average price home sale. Like to me, it's the idea of I helped somebody or I got a deal or I made something come together. It's like you like securing an account. You know, obviously a bigger account is more lucrative, but I always found that just the act of securing an account was like what was my like adrenaline rush.
That was
like,
always my goal as a seller. I always wanted, it was one a month. It was a big decision in advertising, takes a while. I said, I want to get one new advertiser on every month.
Yeah. And now were you, when you did that, and I'm not blind to the fact that like, if all things being equal, yes, I prefer to sell all my average price point to be $500,000 than $200,000. But I never put that into my plan. I always just was like, hey, if I can go from here to this amount, knowing that over time it's natural for the average price point in my industry to increase based on, you know, my my networking group, based on my years experience, based on doors that open, like I'm naturally going to have a little bit higher average price. But I never factored that in. So I was always like, okay, but my goal was, let's say, like I remember my first goal was 1 deal a month. And it took me 3 years to get it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try for 2 deals a month. And that was like, oh my God, that's crazy. I can't do 2 deals a month. Like, I don't know how anybody's even, like, I don't even know how that's possible. I think the max I got to my top year was like 5.5 to 6 deals a month, which I even think that in my head, I'm like, that's insane, because my first 2 years I did 3 and 6 deals in a year, and then really a few years ago I was doing that in a month. Like 3 deals in a month was a bad month, but I had gotten up to that point, but I got up to that point not focusing on dollar. I got up to that point figuring like, how do I go from 1 deal a month to 2 deals a month to 3 deals a month to 4 deals a month? And you can see how that progressed up. And all of a sudden you like look back in the rearview mirror and you're doing 6 deals a month and you're like, oh, okay, like that, I get it. Like that's a lot going on right there. But that's where my mindset was at versus the dollar amount. Like, were you more dollar amount or unit amount? And I could be totally wrong on the way I did it.
No. I think
like,
it was good for me to have unit amounts to help me get to the dollar amount goals. At the end of the day, there's the deals for corporate wants certain deals of the job. The station wants, or the TV station I worked for wanted certain dollar amounts to pay for our resources. And I think goals are good because they help someone stay motivated. It helps someone know that here's the plan. Here's what, the business needs to grow. Here's what I need personally to make sure there's enough money for me and my family. But that's only one metric. And sometimes you can spend so much time trying to think of that bigger deal, right? That big house, that big close, that whale. You should always try for a white whale in your pocket, but you don't want to forget about these smaller ones. Mm-hmm. That's why I like that other metric of 1 deal a month for me, whatever it was. It's going to be different for whatever you're selling.
Yeah. And again, I don't know, like, and some people I think are just purely dollar amount. Because I've asked agents before, I'm like, how many deals you do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm at 3 million sales volume, not making, but 300 million or 3 million sales volume. And I've had conversations with agents. I'm like, so how many deals did you do? And people don't know. And I'm in my head, like I always track both. I tracked units and I did track the dollar amount, but I was always focused on the unit amount, because the dollar amount kind of has to take care of itself. Like if someone called me and had a $400,000 home, or someone called me and had a $70,000 property, I'm just happy I got a call from a person.
Same.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, to me, I wasn't discriminating against like, I'm not going to give you the time of day because I'm going to take care of this person. And that's never even crossed my mind with deals. Honestly, I want to deal with the better person. Like, if the $500,000 person's a dick, like probably don't want to talk to you, or I'll drop. Like I had a couple big price listings. I just got rid of them. Like these clients are terrible people. Like they're not bad people. They're just not good. They weren't good clients. And
that becomes your mental health. This isn't worth the stress or the aggravation over it. You're like me though, and you love what you do, and it's not about. It is about making money, but I just want to help people. I love what I do. I'm excited to go through that process. When they call me now I want to do an estimate. Sure, I'm going to show you what I can do. Here's I think I'm the best choice to help you with this project.
I also go in my mind. It's like, I try to really like step back and look at everything. Okay, they're mad about this, or maybe they're unreasonable about this, or maybe they, I'm giving them this information and I'm saying black and they're saying white. And like all these things, and you're trying to figure it out. And then eventually you just got to realize, like, I just got to cut this person off because they're sucking my time. Mm-hmm. And the payout's not going to be there because of whatever unrealistic expectation they have. Like, and we've been in a market right now, like the sales price has dropped. So, last year, the year before, 2 years ago, like if you were a seller and you popped your home on the market, you were probably, we very rarely had to have any argument with a seller, because the sellers were just like, yeah, whatever, that sounds great. Like I never thought in a million years I'd sell it for that price. And they were getting that price. Now we're on the flip side. So now sellers have to readjust what they're thinking about. But when we have the conversation of like, listen, like you listed higher than what I told you to list 4, 5, 6 months ago. And we're actually lower than what we were 4, 5, 6 months ago when I told you that value. You still have not dropped. So number one, you haven't even got to my baseline that I wanted at the start. Now that baseline is actually, or that floor is now dropped even more. So now that gap is even further away, but yet you're still clinging on to this dollar amount. So I've had a conversation with sellers. I'm like, do you still want to sell? Like, what's your goal? Like, because you're not going to sell at the price. Like, this is just not going to happen. So what do you want to just take off the market? Do you want to hold on to it? Do you want to rent it? Like, what are your other goals with the property? Well, I want to sell it. Okay, but you're not going to sell at that price. So then you've got to go in that conversation of, what's the next step, knowing that like what we're doing now. And I always tell clients, it's time versus money. So you're dead set. Money's a big issue for you because you're not dropping your price. Are you willing to keep it on the market for 5 years? Like, when's the market going to stop dropping? When's it going to regulate? When are you going to see it climb back up to where we were? Arguably 3 to 5 years. And
that's, you and I have joked. I thought about throwing a sign up in my house and putting an FU price onto it. That's just, hey, if somebody wants it, great, but I'm not planning on selling it.
Yeah, but then know
what that is.
But a couple of years ago, it was almost like, hey, honestly, try it because the market is continuing to climb up. So, like, if you want to put yourself above the market, but the market's going that direction, that's not a bad strategy. And I had that strategy with clients. I'm like, try it. Let's try it. Worst case, we find out we're a little too high, but we'll drop it. But that's probably good. Now we're getting to the point where the price is going away. Sellers are holding steady for whatever reason, and the price drops. Or the market value drops. Now that gap between what they want and where the market is has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So now they're further away from selling. But for some reason, they just want to keep the house, and they're just like dead set. Like, I'm going to get $30,000 over, depending on the house, but I'm going to get 15, 20% over what the market's giving. I'm like, well, you better hope someone comes in cash because it's not going to appraise out, number one. And then number two, it's like that could take years for that to happen. So then you're like really you're putting all your eggs in the money basket and the time basket, which we all know is more important than money.
The taxes you're paying over the years of this
your
place.
Your holding costs, your heating costs, absolutely. And and then you also just have the idea of like, which people don't factor in, but if you have a house that you're not utilizing, and like some of these maybe are second home and they're just sitting there, and it's like, okay, but then you have like the responsibility that's just hanging over your head. So if there's an issue, something you have to take care of, maybe something you have to go check on, maybe you're just driving out to take a look at it or plow the driveway or, winterize it or shut off the water. You have all these little tasks and tedious things you have to do in your day to day. Like, do you still want to do that? Because most people don't put a price tag on it, but they've said you're sucking up your time.
I've always wondered that with commercial properties you see around town. Well, not naming it, you see some that sit for years, and I'm thinking
vacant. Yeah,
why? Like at some point, you're just paying all these taxes. Wouldn't you drop enough to get rid of it? But I don't understand that market. You could probably tell me better over a few beers.
No, you're right. No, I mean a few beers would work. Yeah. My loose get, or what's it? My lips get looser, and you'll hear some more color commentary. But that's like, have you run into that in your? I mean, sales business you must have before. Mm-hmm. Like, basically, you come to them, you understand more than what the client knows, and the client's not listening to you. Like I remember we talked about it. Like there was stuff I didn't. I don't want to say I disagree with you. It wasn't right for our business, and it was more of like at the time where I just didn't feel like it was what I wanted to spend the money on or the avenue I wanted to go. It wasn't that I didn't believe in the product or what it could do for certain people, but it would be like me going and like taking all the information you had and just saying how that was wrong and that the way I do it's better, but I'm not in that industry. Like if I go tell a seller like best way to sell your house and the price to sell your house, and then you're basically saying I want to hire you, but I'm going to tell you how you should do your job, and I'm going to tell you like, oh, you did how many deals and you've been in it for how many years? Like, no. I've actually sold, the last time I sold my house was 20 years ago, so I'm going to tell you how it's done. Like when you get that, those are the clients that are, at the end of the day, the most like sludging client. Like the amount of energy and time and effort that you go through and is wasted because they just can't hear the truth. And you can tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. And it's like, my favorite one is someone that comes up to me and like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you tell me what's the correct steps? Those, if I hear that, I'm like, you're going to make out better than any seller because of your attitude. Where basically it's like, I'm hiring you, just tell me what to do. Because people that are good at their job and have been doing it 100% know better than if you're not in that industry. It'd be like me telling you how to like install the HVAC system. I don't know, Paul. Like, you might say like, do you want it here or there? I'm like, oh, I want it there because whatever, convenience or easy to get to or stays out of the way.
Sure. The conversation we have, what are your goals are? When someone's like, well, how much does this unit cost? Don't worry, I don't know if you need that. I always love what does a spot in the 6 p.m. news cost and selling TV. I don't even know if you need a spot in the 6 p.m. news. Who are you trying to reach? What's your target audience? What are your goals? Mm-hmm. Then I'll put a plan together to do that. Trust me, that's why you're coming to me for that. Let me figure that part out.
Yeah, and I do. Then so
tell me the time. Don't bill me a clock.
So Say it again.
Tell me the time. Don't build me a clock. Just keep it simple and right.
I like that.
Right?
But like, well, that's the first thing when I go, like, someone's trying to sell a property. My first question to ask any seller is like, why are you selling? Like, what's the goal? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Like, if you just want to know the value of the property, I'm like, I can give you like a ballpark what I think it's going to sell for, but I got to factor in like what's like, when do you want to sell? What's important to you? Like, because we can factor stuff around.
Do you need to sell tomorrow? Could you sit on it a few months? And I think this is
correct. And I'll give you different clues. Like, how much? Right. What's your budget? To like, are you willing to put some money in the house to fix it up? Do you have a place to go? Do you have like, like, there's a whole host of reasons why that I tailor different things. If people are like, what's my house going to sell for? I'm like, well, that's dependent. What's your time frame? Like, how quickly do you have to sell? How long can you sit? Like you said, now let's look at the market. What's the demand? Who are you up against? Like, who are you up against in the sense of like what other homes are on the market? There's more to it than just like, hey, like, what price you want? 400,000. Okay, 400,000. And there's agents that do that. I'm like, did you even talk to this person? Like, did you even like look like do any research on the market? And it's like anything else. Like you get actually totally different story. I visited a place yesterday, and contractor doing work. Not going to name names, but Paul, the work that was done, they fired this person. They have a different contract coming in. I was going to slide your name in, but they already had someone lined up. I wish I could bring you through this place and you could see how bad it was. Talk about finishing, Paul. You would be like Leonardo da Vinci finishing this house versus what you saw here.
Really? And that's come from
Paul,
Cutting Corners finish work.
Cutting Corners LLC,
exactly.
Paul. You might as well have been like the Mona Lisa LLC. Like Paul, this was disgusting how bad this was. Like it was, pieces were missing. Things weren't like there was a railing with like a gap in it that like shook side to side. It wasn't like the height was not correct. All these things that if I told you like, hey Paul, I need this done, anybody with tools and a reasonable mind would be able to put it to how it should be. It was, and I told son Jen yesterday, it's like, imagine if we both had tools and we had access to material, and we had like, you either do not have the knowledge or you just don't care. It was one of those two. It was like a mixture of like, I have the tools, I don't, or maybe you don't have the tools because you're cutting corners, but this was awful.
And that is too bad when you see someone doing something that they don't have any experience of the knowledge doing. And I like to believe that I will tell, like even the finished work, man, I've done it before, but that's not a specialty. Now, in your case,
correct. Or you could say, I just don't, that's out of my pay grade. Or not pay grade, but I'm saying that's out of my knowledge.
Exactly. That's.
Well, you told me the other day, but like the gutter thing, like I just can't do it. I'm like, okay, I got to talk to you about that. But like that's one of the things, you're just honest. You're like, I'd rather just tell you I can't do it. And like, let's like get the problem solved. Which I think is good. I think that's like the honesty factor. I also think in your line of business, if the back end is smooth, because I find a lot of contractors are just scatterbrained. And again, I'm generalizing here, but like there's a lot of contractors just scatterbrained. They won't get back to you. All of a sudden, they were supposed to do something, and then you find out like a week later they put another job in front, and they won't get back to you for another like month. I mean, you hear all these stories all the time, and just trying to get people out to do stuff. Like, I'd much rather have someone say it's going to be 6 months. I'm like, perfect. I just want to plan my time versus like, yeah, we can get to it. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, were you going to come out and look at it? Like, oh, yeah, we'll come out next week and do it. I'm like, you told me that 2 weeks ago you were going to come out, which I don't care. Just give me the time. If you're going to say hey, it's going to take me 3 weeks to get a quote, then I can either accept that and lock that in, or I'm just going to go elsewhere and look. But I said, at least give me the courtesy. And these people that, like, I've seen that plenty of times where it's like, hey, so-and-so was supposed to stop in. So-and-so was supposed to stop in. Or they go radio silent and you haven't heard from them, and then you're following up with them. And I always find it crazy. If, like, I'm following up to you to put money in your pocket, there's something wrong about that. Like, in my business, if I don't follow up with someone's calling another agent in about 10 minutes. Like, that's just the reality of my business. But that's not the case for most people. And that's always, like, is so bizarre to me that I'm, like, giving you an opportunity to potentially have business. And the least you could do is just say, hey, I'm too busy like this week. Mm-hmm. How about I come out Monday morning and take a look at it? Perfect. What time? And
that's what I loved about, I did the Disney College program and the Disney customer experience they go for. And that's external customers and internal customers. How can you make sure that you stand out and it's probably this amazing experience? I want when you to work with Phaze, it was easy to do business with Phaze. They did quality work. God, that son of a bitch was hilarious. He had a good time. He interacted
You're
with
talking about
everybody
Cody right
here.
now?
Yeah, Cody, right? Not me. I'm a fucking asshole. Yeah, of course, Cody, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be different. This guy was fun. He's got a fun logo.
The other thing too, like even when you send me money, like you don't send me money. When you send me the bill to give you money, like the billing process is just like it's easy. It's smooth. It's all electronic, but it's there. Like you can click the invoice and see exactly what it is. You can pay it all online. Like it's a very simple process. It's not like, no offense, but like when you get like the sheet and it's like scribbled down writing, you can't read it, and it's like
or it's a different price for cash. I always hated that. No, man, if you pay by card, it's the same price.
But it's just everything's just like slow, like laid out nice. It's just easy. Like I'm saying, like that's like a very simple thing, but like in the contracting business, that just seems like it's a crazy. Like you almost think that that's like a one up, like that's a level up within the industry, which I like with what you guys have. But it's like almost there's so many things I find when you deal with certain, like say a contractor, and they give you like like the old school paper I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
they draft on it. It's got the pink, yellow, and white sheets, and like you can barely read it, and it's faded out, and they got a number circled, and there's no like nothing's lined up, and you don't know what's what. Like then I'm sitting there, I'm like, what are you charging me for? And not that I'm not going to pay it, but I'm like, I just want to follow it for record keeping. Yours are like, boom, everything's good. It's it's quick, right to your email. Like I think that level of professionalism, and then coming out and like scheduling, be like, yeah, we're gonna be here that day, this day, and then you show up when you tell me you're gonna be here. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm not saying you have to come at any time, but it's just so I can plan, especially when you're doing stuff here that I want to have ready for you guys, or move for you guys, or just things that like internally, or like, okay, if you're coming in Friday and today's Tuesday, then now I'm gonna push some stuff that I know I can get done prior to them coming in. So a lot depending on the person. Like, so we've been doing some of that stuff for you. Well, we tried to. Where we had just some things moved or done or ready for you to go. So when you came in, it's like, okay, we can do it. Or to kind of plan around, what's priority or what the weather's doing and things like that. But I like that aspect of try to make it smoother because I could rely on you guys showing up versus like, I don't know when Paul and Cody are coming. Like they came, I don't know, they came last Tuesday and now it's Thursday. And like, I haven't heard from them all week. Like that's, especially when the job's like just, as you could say, it's just sitting there for days and days and days. And I think most people, it's not like it needs to be done tomorrow, but it also, I feel like big gaps of just things getting done is annoyance on any level. Because you're just like, it's just like, can we just get this done? And just like,
that's what you don't want to take too much on. Like, and I try to do that myself to make sure that if I know this is going to be a couple weeks, I don't want to tell someone I got it next week, I got you next week, and like, then I'm overbooked. Then people are disappointed in me.
Correct. And I think, well, I've gotten big, like a lot of my like planning and goal setting. Have you read The One Thing, Paul? Book?
No.
Okay, you got to read it. It's good. It's called The One Thing. But the idea behind The One Thing is like this is how I do all of my my planning and prep and everything else. And it's one of the most fascinating books I've ever read. And because it's like, the more you read it and the more you like practice it and read it, it's like you keep learning more. But the whole idea behind it is like focus on your like task and don't try to do everything for everybody, but focus on the task. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to, work at someone's house, the idea would be to work at that house until basically that job's done. Or you have only one other thing that's going to fill the gap. But like you said, you're not going to have a million things that are going to take time up. Like we're working on some stuff internally that we were doing, quite actively. And then this opportunity to buy this kind of fell in my lap about 3 months ago. And I was still doing stuff to the point when it was almost time to move in here. Like I wasn't even ready because I was so focused on that stuff. I didn't put any focus into this. Well, then we got this place, and then my focus completely shifted to this place. Like I punted a lot of stuff because I just didn't want to overload myself, but I also didn't want to like dabble in this. You know what I mean? I want to be sitting here doing a bunch of sales stuff and then dabbling here, and all of a sudden this project goes out until like June of next year.
Right, and things take longer than you thought. You get sick. Like my son had COVID for a while, right?
Yeah.
That I had to stay home with him. Like that threw me right off. Then things get backed up.
But here I was like, I'm just here. I'm here. Like I'm and I have a family and kids, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not neglecting them, but I neglected stuff in the business. But I'm like, but it's almost like I can only do so much. So my thing is, I'm going to power through this as much as I can. And then I can make a big check mark that this is completely done. And we're like 90 to 95% of the way there. But I can make that check mark, and then I'm like, great. I can push all of that crap aside Now I can get back to what I really want to do that is going to have a greater impact on the, like, this is a portion of an impact on the business, but it was definitely a distraction, but it was a distraction that I couldn't, like, just passively chip away at. Because, like, imagine, like, moving all your stuff in and then trying to paint. Like, moving all your stuff in and trying to, like, have you come work around stuff. It's like, no, blank canvas. Let's just get as much done and move stuff in. That's why I like the podcast room. It's a complete wreck because I just became the catch-all room because I wanted everything else looking good, and then slowly made my way to that room, which now is, like, going to be done soon, but it's still, left that to the last minute. Not last minute, but I had to do everything else before I could get to that.
And that can be shut. You can shut that door for a while when you needed it for work. You can come back to it later.
Correct. And everything looked great. But there's still, like, I have a checklist of, like, I'm probably down to, like, let's say 15 to 20 things I need to do here. They're not major. A lot of them aren't major. Some are major, but a lot of them aren't super major things. Like, we've done majority of the work. But in my head, that's the focus was, like, let me get that stuff done, and let me do a big push to get it done. And then really, if I can get this done in the next, let's say 2 weeks, I basically got everything done in 2 months, start to finish, and I'm done. Like, you might say, well, that took a long time, but this easily could have been a year project if I didn't do what I did. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, but I'm done, and then I can basically just put it completely behind me and get this big, like, hanging cloud off of me, and now I can do all the other stuff. And then you chip away at, like, another big pillar project, and then, or rock, or whatever you want to call it, then the next one. But I've gotten better at not trying to do everything, and a lot of it is, like, opportunities. I've had to cut some things. I had to cut, whether it's seeing some people or going to events or doing certain things. Like, I had, because you can't do it all. So it's like, okay, I'm going to take that step back, neglect a few things I would love to get back to doing, but there's a time and a place for it. And, like, I heard this analogy, there's, like, seasons of your life, or season, like, you're in, like, a different season right now of your life, meaning, like, you're switching different company, different, relationship like, all this kind of stuff is happening, but it's all these different phases of your life that you're just kind of and they require a different amount of input, output, focus, priority, all that. Like, when you don't have kids, different stage of your life. You have a kid, now you have a different priority, and you have a different season of your life. Now your kid's an infant. Now your kid is, like your son, like, I would say elementary school, but, like, functional. Like, he's not, you're not changing his diaper and doing that stuff. Like, he's on his own. Like, and then you start, like, you just can see all the different parts of your life, and then the company. Like, certain parts of the company you can push more. Certain parts of the company it's a little more steady, not as chaotic. And in certain parts, it's like, okay, I got to put 100% focus into this. And it might take me longer hours and more stress and less sleep and all that, but I have to make, like, a short sprint to get back to what I was doing before. And there's sometimes you can just prolong an output, but then there's sometimes you have to increase that output because of the time frame. Like, I look at this building as, like, a 2-week sprint, even a 2-month sprint, even though that seems like a long time, but it was, like, just every day, like, focus on.
But you had to do that.
Had to do it. Mm-hmm. But, a month from now, I won't be doing that. Like, I'll be coming in doing something totally different. I won't care about stuff that has to be painted. I won't care about something that I need to do because it's done. And it's like, I check mark, like, it's done. So I feel like that's something that I focused on. The one thing, though, that book is fantastic. So anybody wants to read it, I think that's a good one to read. But it's really like, what is your main task that day? Like, my main task today was to paint the podcast room. I have one more coat to do tonight, but once I do that coat, it's painted. It's done. Like, tomorrow will be to finish the steps, or those steps, like the staining and stuff. It's not a hard project, but it's just one of those big tasks that, like, okay, it's just done, and
I love those. I got today to-do list. I got, these are more long-term, the next, yep.
Yeah, and it's just, but it's, not putting too much on your plate or your expectations too high. Like,
correct. You reorganize. Hey, I'm just going to be done today. These are the 3. Okay, this gets moved here.
Well, I mean, you saw all the keys. Like, I'm trying to go through this whole place and find, basically, do I have a key to every door? And do I have a spare to every door? Is what I'm trying to find. And then basically, like, if I don't, what I have to go make copies of. And, I have 5 keys to that one door, then I can toss 3 of them. Like, I don't want 5 keys hanging
white
out.
Noise, exactly, clutter.
So, like, to me, I probably, conservatively, 50-something keys there. Maybe more. Probably more, to be honest. But I have all these keys sitting there, and, like, I really only need, if I have 2 sets to every door, you're probably looking at no more than like 30 keys, something like that. So I bet you I can get that 50% of the way gone, but then it's organized. Like that right there is a full day project of going around and just like trying a bunch of keys and then labeling all the keys and keeping them, like I have them taped to pieces of paper with the label as to what they go to. And, slowly making, I mean, it's a big building. So like slowly making my way around every single doorway. But once that's done and I have all the keys and I'm like, I should never have to come back to that project again. But it's something that needs to be done now. Or I could just sit there and be like, every time I run into a door issue, I got to figure out which key it is. So it's more to the convenience, but I'm saving myself a lot of time in the future by doing it. But that's like a big project that hopefully, next week at some point, one of those days, that's going to be my one thing is like, just figure out the keys. Like, don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about like trying to, hang this, do that, come up with this major project. Like just my goal today is keys. If I get it done, awesome. Everything else is bonus. But I got my key dilemma all figured out. And it's not a big deal. People are like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I'm like, it's not. But it's just it's just something that will linger and it'll sit on my desk and it'll be all these keys all over the place. And it's a small task, but that's like, it could just be like hanging like that fireplace. It could be just hanging that fireplace. Like, not a big task, but it'll take some time, and you just got to plan to do it during the day. It might only take like a half hour.
You ever reward yourself for something simple? Like I'll say, hey, if I clean this kitchen and get that done, I can do some Tinder swiping, but don't do it till then. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I said if I could put the first coat of paint on the podcast today, I could have a beer with Paul Deyoe today. And that's, you know what? This is my reward right here.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, some are better. Yours is better. This was kind of a low level, I'd rather have someone else here, but I had you here. So this is
I get it, man. Exactly. Yep.
And I feel like a good drink. I feel like a good a steady Eddie there for beer, but no, realistic. Yes, I would say I don't know if I reward myself with anything, but what I will say is that if I complete that, like the reward for me is the mental calmness that comes with finishing it. If that makes sense. Like if you have like a project, if my project that day was just to finish that, I'm pointing at the keys. If I finish the keys, then I would say anything else in the day would be a bonus. But I got done the keys and I'm like, I accomplished something. I accomplished my goal today. My goal was only one thing. It wasn't 6 things I had to do that day. I was like, I get this done. I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. But I got it done. So then what happens is once I get it done,
I just realized it's after 5 o'clock. I'm supposed to get my kid at daycare.
At what time?
Before 5.
Paul, we're having so much fun. Paul.
I know. I got to go. I thought it was going to be quicker than that. I was like,
look
shit.
At this guy. Just
hey, it's been a pleasure, Galen. Thank everybody out there. Think of Phaze Services or Strictly Business. And if you're single looking to date, look me up as well. Either way, right? I got a lot to offer, man.
You went there. Paul Deyoe. Hey, we're going to end that. Next podcast, that's actually the second quickest hit and run. Matt Craig one time literally had to get up because his goat was dying. I felt bad. I think the goat survived,
terrible.
but
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
like,
my story is not as heartbreaking.
No,
as that, right?
but it's still important.
It's important, absolutely.
All right. Well, Paul Deyoe Phaze, I'll let you go. You run out, Paul. I'm gonna play us off.
Thanks, buddy.
Our next podcast will be in the actual better space. It'll be a little more fun. Today was rough. We rushed a little bit. It was good though. It wasn't Paul's fault. What do you think, Paul? You're not on air right now.
It was good.
It was good. Good. The guy gives me a thumbs up. But no, but seriously, Paul and Cody have been great. We've used them for a few weeks now. Check them out, Phaze Services. They got a pretty rainbow colored van that kind of drives around with some good logos on it.
You can't miss it.
You can't miss it. Missing a QR code, but it's got everything on Facebook and Instagram. Check them out. I think that's it. Episode 214 of the Galen Trombley Show. Also, last podcast in my office, which this is totally makeshift and not the best. There's not a lot of good things going on right now. We're holding mics. The acoustics aren't great. A lot of problems. Next podcast should be in the new studio. I will say it's coming along nicely. Not fully up and running. I'm hoping in the next 2 to 3 weeks have that a little bit more set. And I feel rushed when I'm not in. I say rushed. I feel like I've done like the last 3 or 4 in my office, and it's just not. It's not great. Like it's not a great setup. Most people, I think, when I did, let me see. CJ, when he was on a couple times ago, he made some comment about like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, obviously more context of how many podcasts versus, it was first time in the office. But The next studio should be good, so I'll hopefully share some cool photos of that when it's all done. But I'm excited. The acoustics will sound better. It'll be a little bit better setup. Better guests. Paul. We had Paul today. We love Paul, but we'll try to get some better guests on the show. But we do have some cool guests coming up in the month of January. I think that's it. Paul left. He's rushing out. That is episode 214 of the Galen Trombley Show. We're out. Thank you for listening to the Galen Trombley Show. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the episode. You can follow me on all social platforms at Galen Trombley. Thanks for listening.